All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Hope you guys are having a great week wherever you are. It is nice and snowy here in Tacoma, Washington. This is quite our first snow, but it is our first snow where the snow is actually staying on the ground. And I know a lot of people think Seattle is like snowy, but it's not. We get rain pretty much 9 months out of the year, but we never get snow. And so when it does, I get super excited. My one and a half year old daughter, we took her out there and she's absolutely loving the snow. So it's a good day for that reason, but it's also a good day because we have Cody Payne with us on the show. Cody he focuses on small bay industrial. He's been in it since 2005. He's been done over 850 transactions on the development and sales side. So there is a lot of wisdom to jump in here. Cody, thanks for hopping back on the show.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me. Yeah, when we have snow here, as I was saying, yeah, we have snow here. It like shuts the state down. They
The
don't know
city
what to
just
do.
like, we can't do it.
Yeah, they're like, we don't know what to do. Everybody stay home. So, but it's always fun. We get it once a year.
There you go. I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories to hear how people got to where they are in real estate. So why don't you take us back to 2005 and tell us how you got here?
Man, it's quite simple. I was a car salesman before then, straight out of high school, and met a guy who was running a small local real estate shop, and he thought I'd be a good agent, and he needed agents, and so he took a chance on me. I tried to actually apply at some larger firms, but without a college degree and whatnot, they weren't as interested. So he took a chance on me, which I appreciate. I worked for him for about 10 years. And then I did a lot of leasing, a little bit of leasing and sales, kind of mixture. And then went to Marcus & Millichap for 5 years, and then ended up building a really good team of small bay industrial investment sales guys and leasing guys. And then we transferred to Colliers, and I think we've been here for about 5 years as well. So it's been a great, exciting, fun run. And we look forward to coming in every day. We love the product type, and it's something that still excites me to this day.
Right on. Well, yeah, I'm curious why industrial. You and I were talking before we started to hit record. That is, industrial's been super popular recently, especially for people who buy self storage like myself.
Yeah.
People are really flocking to industrial. So I know why it's hot now, but why did you decide to jump into it? Whenever 2005, 2015, whenever it was.
Well, I didn't. The broker that I was working for, he was doing big box industrial, and he didn't want me messing with his stuff or being a competitor with him.
New guy on the small stuff.
I know. So he said, go do the smaller stuff. I have a feeling it will do really well at some point. And so we did that, and it took it a while because when I first got in it, I mean, it was the dog asset class. There's no question about it. I mean, it was selling for 20, 25 a foot on the regular, $30 a foot. And I mean, now today it's not uncommon to see, 175, 180, up to $200 a foot for some of this stuff. So it's really transformed a lot. But I didn't get into it. Some people think, oh man, you got into it early, you were smart. And I'm like, no, I was just kind of put into it. But I'll give him the credit for it.
There you go. So why don't we actually start by defining what small bay industrial is? It is a bit of a niche asset class, and so why don't you tell us, outline for us what is small bay industrial?
Absolutely. So it's heavier multi-tenant. A lot of times when you see it, it'll have a roll up garage door and a walk-in door. A lot of these are a lot of the tenants you'll see in there are going to be a subcontractor base, but it's a very expansive and diverse tenant class now. And so what you used to see back in the day is you just saw your typical plumbing companies, electrician, people like that. Now, I mean, it's not uncommon to have certain retailers in there, certain showroom people, fitness
e-commerce
groups, e-commerce. Yeah, that's big.
Oh yeah, CrossFit. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that now come to these facilities that didn't in the past. I mean, we just sold one actually not long ago, and it had a car wrap shop, and then next to it was a logistics company that had an office there. Next to that was a high-end cheesecake company as well. I mean, it was about as diverse as you could get. And so, but when you see them. They're a lot of times small bays. A lot of times they're going to be around, and this is not a universal number, but a lot of times the suites are going to be 1,800, 2,000 square feet, where they can kind of maybe go to 2, 4, 6 if they need to as they expand. But we call them flex spaces because they're very flexible, and it gives the tenants those flexibilities. There's not a lot of finish out to these, right? They usually will have one office and a bathroom, and that's really about it, unless they do a little bit more to it. But they're very efficient commercial real estate investments as far as and I think that's why so many people from multifamily, from office, from retail have been actually coming over and buying this stuff, because when a tenant leaves, you don't have as much tenant finish out, as much improvement, dollars that you're spending on the spaces. So your bottom line looks a lot better than it does in the other asset classes. I think self storage is probably the only one that's a little bit better, because when a tenant leaves, you sweep it out and you move the next guy in.
Yeah, I still remember my uncle, who was pretty successful in business. I asked him, I can't remember when I asked him, but he said that if he started over, he would buy. He said specifically garages and a place. What do you call those? Auto shops. He said if I
Yeah.
had started over, I would just buy garages, and he meant small bay industrial and auto shops. And he says there's nothing to it. You just sweep it out and bring the next person in.
Move on in. Yeah.
And it's funny, I was actually thinking, especially over the last 10 years, that there's been a lot of times when I have, in my social life, we end up at some kind of business in an industrial park, like a
Yeah.
brewery or a CrossFit gym, or just, whatever it is. These places are no longer, they're not retail, obviously, but they are being
They're kind
more
of quasi. I
accepted.
mean, they dip into it. I mean, they really do. It's not uncommon to see like I don't know if y'all have like a Papa John's or a Mr. Jim's Pizza or whatnot out there, but I mean, it's not uncommon to see those guys in these as well. And so, there's actually one not far from me that I was getting. I've got an older Chevelle that I was fixing up, and I was getting the windows tinted on it. And there was a pizza shop next door, so I went there and ate.
Get your windows tinted and go buy
Yeah,
pizza.
yeah,
All right, so let's take it from the investor's perspective.
yeah.
So finding, buying, and then either leasing or dispositioning. How do you go about? I know you're a broker, so you kind of have refined the process of finding these deals. So how do you go about finding motivated sellers on the flex industrial side?
Well, the good and the bad. It's kind of the good and bad with them right now, because it's very hard to find a park that is struggling, right? That like I can't tell you the last one that we called where they're like, man, I can't lease this thing to save my life. Like, it's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not going to find those, you know, desperate sellers because of a lack of tenancy, like maybe you would have back in the day, or maybe like you'll see in maybe some retail or office buildings right now, right, where they're just struggling with the vacancy. Where you'll find some of the motivation is people just wanting to get out, right? There's a lot of people that have owned these for a very long time. And I'll give you a prime example. We just sold two parks that the guy, he's owned it for 10 years and hadn't raised a rate in forever, loved his tenants, which is great, had good relationships with them, and that's why they didn't raise rates. And so, he was just looking to get out of it because it just kind of became more of a management headache for him. They were gross leases, so he was doing all the work. We ended up selling that, and the group that bought it's already, working on the triple net conversion to where the tenants take care of the spaces themselves, and bumping the rents, doing the right improvements to it. But that's the only time we really see where someone's like, man, I'm trying to get out of this. And it's usually the people that have owned it for a long time that are still kind of running the day to day and haven't really caught up, because especially in Texas and a lot of other states, a lot of times these are getting triple net leases on them, which
Mm-hmm.
means the tenant's paying a portion of the taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, and they're even paying for repairs on their own space in a lot of cases. And so when you have some of these older owners that haven't swapped to that, that's where it can kind of feel a little management intensive.
Yeah. So that the value add opportunity that you see in most of these
Absolutely.
deals is just going from a gross to a triple net.
Absolutely. And we've seen parks with rents 40% under market.
On the gross
And
side.
oh yeah. I think the small bay side still has a tremendous amount of opportunity like that on it. When you look at other asset classes like multifamily, I mean, all the value add is, I mean, that stuff was bought up from 2015 to 2020 in just such heavy capacity. I think there's still a lot of opportunity on this side because the year-over-year rental growth in a lot of markets is very, very good.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the markets. In small bay industrial, I feel like is a little bit more restrictive in terms of where it will do well. What are the type of metros and the type of areas in those metros that you should be looking? People should be looking to assure, high occupancy.
Yeah, so I'll just give you some of the metrics that we like looking at because we help people find land to build this stuff as well. And so we like good high growth areas, right, with a lot of homes coming in. So you and I were talking about Denison, Texas earlier. That's a very good area that has a lot of new home construction coming in. It's surrounded by other larger cities like Sherman and whatnot that continues to see an influx of a lot of new home construction, bringing in, retail and, other businesses as well. That's where these really thrive the best is in higher growth areas, right? When you go to areas that are more established, that are maybe older, you'll see it there, but maybe they won't have the year over year rent growth like you might see in some other higher markets. But like I said, it's also area dependent because, there are parts of DFW, Houston, Austin, whatnot, and OKC and other markets that we work in that, has good infill that continues to do really well just because the cities don't like this stuff in a lot of cases. So it's hard to build it.
Oh,
So you're
really
kind of,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they really, a lot
like
of
mobile
cities
home
really,
parks.
oh, yeah. And so a lot of cities really don't like that metal construction either. And so that's where the infill really takes a lot of advantage because the competition that's there is there.
Mm.
And it's very hard to get in. And if you want to go build, like out here, if you want to go build a small bay industrial park, and a lot of times they'll make you do it out of concrete tilt up, have all this stuff, and where your cost versus rents just don't make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So usually, I mean, if somebody was developing this, you just do steel walls, steel corrugated steel
I
everywhere.
mean, that's 80% of the build right now across the US
So it's
is
like a
going to
big
be
self-storage
metal
facility.
construction. It is taller. It's
Yeah.
taller, bigger doors, bigger driveways. But that's why there's so many people on the self storage side coming to it because when it comes to developing and building it, they've kind of got more familiarity with how that metal construction is done, how it works, and then it's just really just kind of figuring out logistics of tenant use, access, ceiling heights, things of that nature. Because there's actually a lot of things involved in small bay that people don't really realize. You think, oh, it's just a metal building. And so, people will build it. And we actually went and looked at a park recently that he was like, yeah, we've had a lot of tenants look at it, but not as many people leasing it as fast as we would have thought. And we were looking at it and we're like, well, your ceiling height's 14 feet. So you can't do mezzanine space at all at that
Mm,
height.
hmm.
You can't get your pickleball tenants. You can't get your gym tenants. You can't get your e-commerce tenants. You can't, get your tumble into your gymnastics folks, your basketball training facility. Like none of these guys can come there. And so there's a lot of little things like that that people don't realize that help, these parks out, side yard storage, there's a lot of little things that can help these parks thrive and do, much better than the competition.
So criteria about the actual build, about the what if you were going out there to buy something, you've already mentioned two side yard storage, which is something I wouldn't have thought of, but that makes a lot of sense.
It's huge.
And then you mentioned high ceilings. 14, obviously, that's too low. What is
Yeah.
18, 20? Is that what you're looking
18,
for?
nothing under 18 if we're doing it.
Okay, that
Our
makes sense.
recommendation is nothing under 18 because there you can still get mezzanine in there.
Got it. And do you obviously you're looking for it? It has to have an office, plumbed office, right? Water, electrical, everything.
Yeah, we like it to have at least an office and a restroom. Now, people build these where they have, maybe a common area restroom, maybe outside, which,
Mm,
that happens. It's not as appealing, but we like each unit to have its own restroom at least.
yeah,
And a lot of tenants do as well.
and I think earlier you mentioned the size. You want it to be at least at minimum 1,800 square feet.
So yeah, the most ideal tenant size right now is about 1,800 to 2,000. And those are great increments anyways. If you're building a building, it's like, you're building a park, you got 10,000 square foot building. That's a great increment to be able to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 if somebody expands.
Yeah, yeah. If you're, I mean, if you're building these out of metal, then it sounds like you'd be able to move the interior wall to make it a larger unit pretty easily. I mean, if there is that the case, or am I
It
speaking
is. It
like
is. The only
somebody
thing
who
you're
doesn't know what they're
doing.
talking
No,
about?
no, no. You're absolutely right. But you want to move it in those exact increments because,
Hmm.
a lot of these have, they have their own electric meters.
Hmm.
And so, you want to make sure you're kind of going in line with those and not moving things over, moving electrical over. So, doing it that where all they got to do is really just tack on another electric meter makes it much easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how about the leasing side? Is there anything specific that you do to prepare the units for leasing, or do you really just market it bare bones, and then since you're doing triple net, you allow the tenant to change it as they see fit?
Well, depending on the condition you get it back in, we've got some really good lease guys here. I don't do leasing anymore, but even back when we did it and when these guys do it, a lot of times we'll try to get it white boxed at least, and it doesn't mean painting the whole thing white and everything. Just really clean it out, prep it, get it ready for the next guy. It's usually very minimal. It's rare we do any type of flooring on it too. So you're really not changing anything out on that aspect. Maybe you're repainting the office or something of that nature, but very, very minimal finish out.
What is the development cost per square foot right now?
Um, so if you just want to look at what is a building shell cost, or I'll give you a couple projects that were recently done, and that's with land, everything, infrastructure, all that. We've seen them come out anywhere from around 85 to 135 a foot, depending on how nice you do it, right? If you want to put a bunch of showroom glass up front, you can do that. That stuff's running, about $50 a foot. So you do a 10 by 10, you're at $5,000 just for that. You do maybe nicer garage doors, you go from 4 grand to 8 grand, and so there's a lot of little things you can do to make them look nicer, or if you want to do more of an efficient build. But those are kind of the range that we see. And, if you break it down even farther and you're like, the metal building cost, I mean, the shell and all that's probably 26 to 32 a foot. And then you start doing all your add-ons from there.
But the standard, it sounds like 85 to, you said 135.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah,
probably say
without the land, right?
no, that's with the land.
Oh,
I'd
that's
probably
with
say
land.
the most common number we're seeing is probably around 115.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad, especially if you're selling it for 175.
Yeah.
It's a deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got your build cost or your build timeline and things of that nature. And if you raise money and interest rate, I mean, all that stuff can chew into your profit, which, is I think what everybody in every asset class is having right now is, construction loans and build and lease up timeline. But these do very, very well and they have very good returns.
Nice. Whenever we talk about a unique asset class, I always like to ask for people who want to get into small bay industrial, what are the top one or two pieces of advice that you could give them?
Um, I would say, so we wrote a book. I don't know if I told you that. We actually wrote a book, Flex Space Domination.
Oh, there
I
you
would
go.
say, I
Download
mean,
the book.
obviously I gotta say that's like the best thing to get started. But there's a lot of really good online resources. There's a lot of good, places to go. It's still a tight niche product, so finding a specialist is really going to be your key.
Yeah. Where if somebody wants to buy your book, where can they find it?
Amazon,
Amazon, of
where
course.
all books are sold, apparently.
There you go. Flex Bay domination.
Flex
Right on.
space domination.
Flex space
Flex
domination. All right.
space domination. Yeah. But it's
All
been a
right.
great book. Yeah, we wrote it and put it out late last year, and it's done really well. So very proud of it.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes too. So if you guys want to grab that book, you can just click the little more in the description, and the link will be in there. Sweet. So I will take that opportunity and push us into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. It starts with books or any form of education. Could be a conference you've gone to, a movie you've seen, anything. But I need two recommendations: one for general life wisdom, and then one for real estate.
Well, I mean, obviously we already said flex space domination, so I'm not going to reuse that one. But actually, a book that I liked a lot. I don't know if you read it or not. I know some people probably think it's cheesy, but Grant Cardone, his 10x rule.
Mm.
I think that's good for anybody getting into sales, or even if you're not getting into sales. Just it kind of helps me learn about communication a little bit better, and it's also it can be a motivating business kind of book.
Yeah. I
And so
like I like Grant Cardone. I feel like he's kind of love it or hate it kind of guy, but I like his stuff. He's he's got his brand. He's very pumpy and go out there and get it, and I like it.
yeah, and he preaches hard work, kind of like Andy Elliott and all those other guys. I mean, they just preach like working hard and this and that. And there's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong with working hard. There you go.
Yeah, all the other stuff may be a little cheesy, but it's fine. And then I actually read one by Joel Osteen, which I know some people love and hate it as well. And I think it was like live better, do better, and whatnot. It was good. It was just little tidbits on living life, to the fullest, and what kind of, surrounding the right people around you, making yourself happy and things of that nature, not letting other things bring you down. And it's so easy for people to complain. And I mean, as you know, one bad egg can spoil a whole batch. And so it was just it was very good on that. But yeah, that 10x rule, flex based domination, does the best.
Perfect. Love it. All right. Next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Cody who was just walking up to the door of that realtor back in 2005 looking for his first job. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
I would say stand your ground a little bit better and be practice patience. I was very impatient back then.
As we all are when we
Wanted
grow.
instant. You want things
Yeah.
to happen. You want things to move faster. You want instant success on certain things. You want this deal to move forward at this. You got to understand practice patience. I
Yeah.
was very impatient, but I think a lot of people have that.
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah,
still have.
especially
I still
especially
have
in real
it.
estate.
So
I still have it.
yeah,
You got to battle against it. It's hard to because you're trying to get deals done, you're trying to get things moving forward. And you just want it to happen right now. But the patience
yeah.
is the hardest part. But those are good pieces of advice. Moves us to the next question. This is about the US. It's a big place. There's a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
DFW, Texas.
DFW, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. So I like DFW. I like Austin, Houston. I mean, there's a lot of good areas, but being a Texas boy, I gotta go with my hometown.
Yeah, and DFW, I mean, I think it's out of Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and DFW. Isn't DFW growing the fastest? I think it has the highest
Yeah.
growth rate in Texas. Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's out of control out here. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, I mean, there was way more cars on the road today than yesterday, and every day it's more and more. So
3,000. That's crazy.
yeah, it's a lot.
All right, next question is about actually we've already touched on this one, but we're gonna go back to it. It's about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So, what's your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
I like calling and meeting in person. I'm big on that. It allows you to kind of feel each other out a little bit better, understand if they're a real seller or not. Because I mean, how many times do you run across people who think they're sellers, and then prime example, we had a guy who said, "Give me 4.2 and we'll sell it." We gave him 4.2 and he wouldn't sell it. So, when you meet with them in person, you can kind of get a better feel for it, and then you create that rapport and things of that nature. So, I'm still very big on face-to-face meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
100%. I will say just the kind of a side note on if you're buying, because like we buy out of state all the time because Washington sucks for for cap rates,
For
and so
everything.
yeah, and
No, I'm
so
just kidding.
we buy out of state, and so we I love meeting people in person, but a lot of times I can't do it. So what I have been doing when I create the deal, I record a YouTube video of me explaining how we got to the offer, explaining all the contingencies around it, and then I send it to them. And that has been actually working pretty well. People, a lot of times, just the process of explaining your offer and explaining how you got to it really helps people understand both perspectives, yours and theirs. So that's just a little tidbit, little side piece there. So moves us on to the next question. This is about lessons learned. Not every deal that we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, a lot of times things go wrong and we get to learn a lesson. So, what was a deal that went a little bit sideways for you? And then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Um, you know, the only thing that I think that we still learn from today is when you do an evaluation on something, and I'll just give you an easy example. You're like, okay, I think this is worth $1 million, and they're like, oh, I need 1.5 million. and in your head, you're like, I know if I put it up there 1.5 million, nobody's gonna want it, but it's also there. So, and so, that's something you always kind of struggle with. We're much better now, but that's one thing that I struggled with very early on in my career is, taking stuff just to take it. But, really going with, your belief and where you think, the property is and putting it in the right position can save you a lot of heartache and a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially
And we're paid
sellers.
on success.
Yeah. Sellers can sometimes be have an inaccurate estimation of what their property's worth. And so it just goes back to showing them and walking them through the process of, why you think the value is what the value is. And I'm sure,
Well, and I should know best being in car sales. I mean, when I was selling cars 20 years ago, I mean, how many people you think came in there thinking their car was worth this and it's worth this, and it's like, I paid this for it. And it's like, I know, we're here to rip you off, so I'm very sorry. And so, but yeah, no, I should learn that lesson from there without a doubt.
there you go. All right. That brings us to the last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Absolutely. Flexbusinessparks.com is the best place to find us. You can find a lot of the stuff that we're working on, what we're investing in, and things of that nature. Reach out. We can help you out. If you have questions on Flex, want to invest, want to build, want to buy, whatever you want to do in that arena, we'll get you taken care of.
All right.
Easy,
Perfect.
easy.
Easy. Flexbusinessparks.com. I will put that in the show notes. Again, if you guys want to reach out, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find the links. All right, Cody, that wraps it up. Thanks for hopping on the show.
My man, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.